So chimpanzee next. If you talk about chimpanzee, they are a little bit different. If you try to see their body is not so well built. Not so well built means there is not very huge like orangutan and gorilla. A chimpanzee, they can stand, they are very tall if you compare them with the other orangutan or this one gibbon. But here they are not very strong like gorilla. In gorilla, you can see they are very huge compared to them. They are not so well built. Well built means muscular, the muscular part. And they're found in very large numbers. Where do we find them? In tropical forest of Africa. See here again, Africa. In the last two apps that we have discussed till now, they were gibbons and orangutan. And if they ask you in the examinations and they write about aesthetic apps, because they have already asked many times in UPSC, they must write a note on aesthetic apps. Then you have to mention about orangutan and gibbons. We have discussed already their features. You just try to find the similarities and differences, and based on that, try to memorize those points. And here in case of chimpanzee, if you talk about chimpanzees and gorilla, they are African apes. Remember that, do not forget that. Again, in the examination, they may ask you, what are the features of African apes? So you have to recall by yourself. That is chimpanzee and gorilla. And if you talk about chimpanzee, they are not very strong, or you can say not well built, and mostly found in tropical forest of Africa. We have three species, and height is almost 5 feet. If you try to stand in erect positions, you can see that they look little bit tall compared to other animals, or you can say other apes. But the tallest one are the gorillas. The gorillas can be up to 6 feet. If they try to stand. So chimpanzee again, they can be up to 5 feet, and the weight. If you talk about the weight, their adult are 110 pounds, and the female adult male they weigh around 110 pounds, and adult female they weigh around 88 pounds. Again, next feature is the body part. You can see when we have seen the hair in case of orangutan, and already we have seen gibbons. We have found they have a smooth hair among the gibbons, woolly hair, and again among the orangutans we have found coarse hair. So again, here in chimpanzee also you can find coarse hairs. This coarse hair is not very smooth, loose and coarse hair of various colors, different types of colors or variations you can find. And head is around low voltage. Low voltage means it is not very high. The skull part is not very high. This means not up to this much. Suppose one skull is like that, and another skull is like this. We call it this is low voltage. This is high voltage. Means this roof of the skull. The roof of the skull is low. Here in case of chimpanzee, it is very less, not high. We call it low voltage head. And again, supraorbital ridge. We have discussed what is the supraorbital ridge. Very important part. This one, supraorbital ridge. In future also, we're going to talk more about these points. Supraorbital ridge means we have already discussed. This is the ridge or the bone that is just present above the eyes, and these bones are not very highly developed. Here in case of chimpanzee, it is a poorly development. You can find a poor development supraorbital ridge, and also it is continuous. Here you can see chimpanzee. This is the chimpanzee, continuous. You try to see their face. You can see this one. A poorly developed. It's not very strong really. So that's why I am mentioning here poorly developed. Supraorbital ridge, a continuous bone here. Supraorbital ridge. In all the apps, you can find this supraorbital ridge, except humans do not have supraorbital ridge. We have very small or rudimentary, you can say. You can touch it, you can touch this part, you can find a rudimentary, this one, supraorbital ridge. But in other like gorilla, humans, and not humans, like gorilla, chimpanzee, you can find this supraorbital ridge. And it's continuous also. There is no break in the middle part, it is continuous. If you talk about the nose is very small nasal bones. You can see here, this is the nose here. You can see small nasal bones. The bones of the nose is not very huge, very small, and the breeze is not again elevated. মানে এটা উঠি থকা নাই নাকটো আমাৰ যেন উঠি থাকে নাকখন ইয়াৰ পৰা ইয়ালৈকে it is depressed বুলি কয় মানে বহি আছে. The breeze is not elevated. The jaw forward projecting. এইটো মুখখন আগতে ওলাই আহিছে. This is the jaw part এইটো কথা ইয়াত দেখা আমি. This is the jaw part. It is forwardly projecting. Jaw is forward projecting. Large and projectile canine. They have a very their canine is also large and projectile. This is a very small chimpanzee. And the big chimpanzee you can find they have a very strong canine, large and strong canine. projectile. Projectile means it is coming out towards outside. If you talk about the face again, we have observed in all these apps that they have thin lips. In all the apps, we can see this. You can remember this point. You should not forget this point. If they ask you to write about any of the apps, in any of the point, you can mention, you can add this point that they have thin lips. And we talk about the skull size among the chimpanzee, oval skull, oval shape. The shape of the skull is oval. And the facial region is small compared to the skull region. The facial part is small in it. Compared to the overall skull, the facial part is not very huge. Here again, a orbit, if we talk about orbit, orbit means the again in the area where we can, not we actually, the nature has put our eyes here. This is the orbit area. This is the orbit where the eyes are placed. And this orbit we can again find elliptical. This is what I call elliptical, not round, elliptical orbit. And we have again observed hands in all the apps. They are again elongated and narrow. Hands are long and narrow. Fingers also long and small, and they have opposable thumb. In case of gibbons, we have seen they do not have perfectly opposable thumb in case of gibbon. But here we can find they have opposable thumb. In human beings also we have opposable thumb. And in all the apps, they have opposable thumb, except in gibbon only the means not perfectly opposable thumb in gibbons. And at the same time, all the apps also have opposable toe, also big toe. But in case of human being, we do not have opposable big toe. And there are many advantages also for that. We will discuss this about this opposable thumbs of human beings in future. Tomorrow we'll talk about human beings. See legs. If you talk about legs, legs are long, larger than orangutan. Compared to orangutan that we have discussed in the last slide, compared to them, their legs are long. See here, you can see these are the legs of legs. This is a leg of chimpanzee, and we have the leg of orangutan. See, this is a leg of orangutan. This is how you have to remember by picture only. You have to look at the picture, you have to observe it, and at the time of examination, you can write it by yourself. You don't have to make up things. See, it is small. Even their hands are longer than their feet. And if you talk about a chimpanzee, they are much more longer than compared to orangutan. Their legs, chimpanzee. Okay. So you can compare their hand with our human hand. See, it is very long, very huge also, long. You can find nails like us. This is a thumb. Like us, we also human being has opposable thumb. They also have opposable thumb. But compared to human beings, their opposable thumb is the ratio is short, very small compared to other fingers. The reason is again we have already discussed. It is because so that they can easily jump with the help of these four fingers. They can hold the branches easily while jumping, and it do not form any kind of barrier. If you talk about the feet looks like this: opposable toe, big toe. They can use their feet also while climbing. And foot is long, hind limbs are poorly adapted for walking upright. The hind limbs or the leg is not well adapted for walking in the upright positions. And again, they are arboreal. Opposable big toe we have opposable great toe, and heel, that is a heel part. This part is rudimentary. Our heel is highly developed so that we can walk fast. But in case of chimpanzee, it is rudimentary heel. It's the starting of the heel. In erect positions, when they are trying to stand up, when they try to stand up in erect position, you can find the hand almost reaches the knee level. The hand, it comes up to the knee level when they try to stand. And they are very much expert in climbing and brachiating. Brachiating means that is arboreal, jumping from trees to trees. That is called brachiating. So they are very expert. The chimpanzees are very fast, one of the very fastest animal in the jungle. They can jump very fast from one branch to another branch. They always feel safe. All the apps, they always feel safe in the trees only. So they may come down to the ground during daytime, but at night when they want to sleep at a safer place, they will always go back to the tree. They have their own nest on the trees and they will sleep during the night on the trees. And if you talk about the food habit, they are again omnivores. So what we have observed, all the apes, including human beings, they are omnivores. They eat fruits, vegetables, eggs, small birds, and sometimes rodents also, like mice, all these things. The last one is the gorilla. Gorilla is the largest one among all the apes. So बाकी apes बोलो कि मैं दिखता है कि gorilla पर अलग खबरन थी गले. They are very strong one, much bigger than humans. So if you talk about a gorilla, they are the largest and stoutest. Stoutest means both strong, and they are found in the equatorial regions of Africa. Nearby the equatorial regions you can find in Africa. Again, African apes like chimpanzee, this gorilla, they are African apes. If you talk about gorilla, we can find two species. Two species. Most of the features are same only. There's little bit of differences there. We'll discuss it in the last slide. So two species of gorilla we can find in Africa. And when they are erect, their hand goes below knee joint. Height it can go up to 5 to 6 feet for an adult. And weight is much more. It is 350 to 600 pounds. 350 to 600 pounds for adult male. Body hair long and black color. So normally, if you talk about a body color, it is almost black. Mostly it is black. Sometimes there may be a little bit variations from the black, but mostly you can find it is black. Maybe gray is black sometimes, but it is black. And when you talk about red color, red coarse gray, red coarse hair, we can find them in orangutan only. And in gibbons, you can find different types of colors. Cream color mostly. And in gorilla, it is mostly black in color. They have two species, coarse again, coarse hair. And if you talk about a skull, skull is very massive, oval shape and massive. See this one, oval shape. This part actually, this is the skull. The skull part is oval shape and very huge. They have very huge, this bone called sagittal crest. Sagittal crest is very huge. And there is a bone sagittal crest where the muscles are attached. Since they have a very huge sagittal crest, they have a very good quantity of muscles in their face. Skull is massive and oval. Innermost supraorbital goes from left to right from the skull. This is the supraorbital, right? This is the supraorbital. Very huge. You can find this one, supraorbital ridge. This is the huge supraorbital ridge. This is the sagittal crest where the muscles get attached. The facial muscles, especially the jaw muscles, get attached there. That's why they have a huge muscles in their face. Along with that, they also have a supraorbital, continuous supraorbital ridge. This is supraorbital ridge. Forehead, low forehead. The forehead is not very well developed. Low means from here you can say it is sloping in the backside. Low, that's why we call it low forehead. Prominent sagittal crest. This is the sagittal crest, and it is weaker in females and very strong. You can find the sagittal crest, very strong sagittal crest among the males. Cranial capacity again very huge, and it is among males among 550 cc. Cranial capacity means the area, the space within the skull where the brain is placed. And for human beings, it reaches up to approximately 1300 to 1400 cc. And gorilla, they are coming close to us. In case of male, it is 550 cc, and in case of female, it is 450 cc. Cc means cranial capacity, means the size, or you can say the space within the skull where the brains are placed. Next is cranium. Cranium means the skull. This part, cranium means the skull bone. Cranium is solid bone. There is little space for the brain. See, this bone is very hard. This skull part is very hard, very strong, very thick also. Because of this thickness, the area within the skull, or you can say the volume within the skull, is less because of the thickness of the skull. If you talk about the facial part, the facial portion is larger in proportion than the cranial part. Cranial part. This is the cranial part. This is the crania. The skull part. And if you see the facial part is small than the cranial part of the gorillas. Jaw. See, in all the apes that we have discussed till now, they have a very large jaw. Again, by this time, you know why they have a large jaw. Because they cannot cook their food. They cannot make their food soft. They cannot use fire, or they cannot use pressure cooker, all these things to make their food soft. They have to chew the very rough food that is available in the forest. It may be very strong nuts also. It may be very raw vegetables. So they need to have a very large jaw. For all the apes, they have a very large jaw projected forward and downward in the front side and again in the down side. Projected forward and downward. Upper jaw is progentus. Upper jaw means this part is upper jaw. Progentus means coming outside. This is called progentus. This is upper jaw is progentus. মানে ওলাই অহা যেন লাগিছে আগফালে ওলাই অহা যেন লাগিছে progentus বুলি কওঁ progentus. Lower jaw is massive. This have to be massive because they have to chew a lot. And canine is again enormous and interlocked. See, this is the enormous canine, very strong canine teeth. It is a show of power. They show their power with the help of this canine teeth. The primates actually they show their power, including monkeys. They show their power with the help of this teeth. It is show of their ability or the capacity or defense system or aggressiveness. Unlike humans, in human beings we use to show our muscles, all these things. But here in case of order primate, other animals among the primates, they show their canine teeth. And the canines, they are enormous and interlock. Interlock means, as you know, there is a space here. They can fit when they close their mouth. They can fit it. There is space. There is a gap there. They can fit their canines, both for the upper canine and for the lower canine. There is a space there. There will be a space so that they can interlock their canine teeth. If you talk about the nose, their nasal bones are long, low, and narrow. Nasal bones, this is long, low, and narrow. Compared to the face, actually, compared to the face, this is not very big. That's why they are saying narrow. Breech is slightly elevated. It is not highly elevated like us, but slightly compared to the other apps that we have talked till now. Compared to them, we can find little bit it is elevated. The nasal bones. Sorry, breech. This is called breech, right? This is the breech. This is the breech of nose. And the nostrils. Nostrils means the holes through which the air comes in and go outside. So the nostrils, they are broad and forwardly directed. The nostrils are very broad and in the forward side, you can find them. They're covered with cartilaginous ring. It is not bone actually, it is cartilaginous part. Cartilaginous ring. It is a kind of ring made of cartilaginous tissues. So lips again, in all the apps we have been talking about, all lips in all the apps they are thin. It is always thin. In human beings also you can find sometimes you can find thin lips, but they can be broad also. It depends from race to race. But in apps again it is always thin. Chin is completely absent. There's no chin. We can find more human features compared to other apps. We can connect the gorillas with humans. For example, upper arms are longer than forearms. In all the apps we have seen it is different from gibbons, orangutan, chimpanzee. What we have observed in gibbon, orangutan, and chimpanzee that they have longer forearms than the upper arm. But what we have observed here is that they have longer upper arms compared to the forearms. So they are different. See, this point you can remember while writing about the Asiatic apes and Asiatic apes and African apes. We have got one difference here among the gorillas, that their upper arm is longer compared to forearms. In all other apps that we have discussed till now, what we have found that their forearms. Their forearms are longer than the upper arm. Hand, it is short and broad, like men. We also have a short and broad hand. See, this is like humans. Short and broad hand. They keep their hand like this while walking. It is called knuckle walking. We'll talk about knuckle walking in the next classes. They use their hand like this while walking. At the time of walking, they keep it like this. And this is how their feet look like. So if you try to compare the hand, it is short and broad, and it resembles man, like us. Thumb is well developed. Here you can find this is the thumb, well developed thumb. Leg is short, and foot it resembles man up to a certain extent. You can say it resembles man. And heels, not very highly developed, but still a developed heel we can find. So that is why they can use their feet while walking like this. It's a kind of heel they use this heel. Not properly developed like us, but still well developed compared to the other apps. food is less adapted to arboreal prehension. See, till now, all the apes, they are mostly highly developed for the arboreal lifestyle, or for, you can say, brachiations, or to live among in the forest or the trees. But here in the gorilla, they are less adapted for arboreal life. Arboreal prehension means grasping capability. They spend most of the time they spend on the ground, the gorillas, unlike the other apes. But still, since nature has made them to be an arboreal, that's why at the time of sleeping, when they want to feel safe, they will always climb back on the trees. They have their own nest on the trees, and they will stay the night on the trees only. And they walk on the ground. Sometimes they walk erect, but mostly they're quadrupedal. Quadrupedal. This one is quadrupedal, means using of four limbs. Quadrupedal. We call it knuckle walking. We'll be talking about knuckle walking in future classes. So this is mostly we can find in all the gorillas. There is another variation called mountain gorilla, another species, mountain gorilla. So this mountain gorilla, little bit different. All other this other characteristics are same only. So how they're different? They have very narrow skull compared to the this equatorial gorilla. This mountain gorilla, they live in the higher part, mountainous areas or hill areas, and they are mostly in the plain areas, equatorial regions, plain regions we can find them. This mountain gorilla, they have narrow skull, longer trunk, large face, short limbs, shorter and broader hands, thick and black body hair. So these are the features, mostly same only. So these are about apps. In the next class, we're going to talk about modern man. This is modern man. We'll be talking about modern man tomorrow. I think I'll take your next class tomorrow morning. We'll be discussing about modern man tomorrow. So if you have any doubt, you can ask me or you can exit one by one.